Khornegors are really nice, especially for Beastmen. Don't get me wrong, they'll be great for Khorne, especially for, game modes like Domination, where speed and Vanguard matters quite a bit. The fact they're anti-large also gives them a nice advantage in a number of situations, but especially for the Beastmen, having a mid-tier anti-large AP unit that allows you to do something like this. I'm here against HDS once again, and I've done something very rude, which is to take like a full stack of anti-large against the Ogres. We've got 4 Khornegors, 3 Khornegors rather, and Korok's Man Rippers. You can only take 4 Marks of Chaos now with the Beastmen. They've had that Marks system implemented, and I chose to use my 4th Mark here on the Blood Brute Behemoth, so that I could get the Regiment of Renown Gorgon. We've also got a couple of Ungor Raiders, then just some Ungor Spearman Herd. Taurox here leading the way. Brachim, Lore of Wild. Taurox, I believe, is explicitly Khorne Boy, right? Although he's not marked as such. Don't get me wrong, I don't think Creative Assembly should. Please don't. But anyway, against me is the Ogres. Let's take a look at some of their new units. I might have talked about these. I don't know about the release order of this video specifically, but just in case I haven't, or if this is the first video you've seen, the Blood Vultures. So this is probably going to be the best, one of the best additions for the Ogres here. They're relatively cheap. Vanguard fast attack unit. I wouldn't be surprised if they actually get a price increase, given how potentially strong they are if you compare their stats to something like Onyx Chromin, which we will do later. But anyway, yeah, for this particular, the rest of this battle here, we've got, yeah, some Yetis. They're like frosty, faster, monstrous infantry, right? They've got, Frostbite. The Regiment of Renown also has this Aura of Frost. They've got this here where they get extra buff with Terror causing unit in range. Actually, I think the regular Yetis also, was there some mixed in here? Anyway, we'll find them in a minute. So we've got some Bulls. We've got the Thunder Tusk, once again, Frostbite, and also has an artillery attack. You'll see it kind of shoots snowballs from its face. With the 200-meter range, also does magic damage here. Anti-infantry has more HP than something like Stonehorn, so it's similarly priced as well to like a Stonehorn harpoon launcher, just with like more HP, which is great. Then we've got Golbag and some of his man-eaters. They're dual hand weapon man-eaters. They've also, again, got a little bit more HP. They've got Vanguard. They've also got the adaptive tactics that you may have seen on the Man-Eater Regiment of Renown, the one with pistols. They also had this passive previously. They still have it. And also this Man-Eater unit, which I should specify is not a Regiment of Renown. You can take multiple of them, is here. And then you've got Golbag himself, the big ogre, who is, the ogriest ogre, maybe, whoever ogred. He's definitely here with his Deadeye pistol. It can take a little shot there, does some decent damage. Also has a nice self-heal and Vanguard deployment also. Yeah, fun stuff. We've got a Butcher of Heavens. Heavens of Death has been added for lores available for the Ogres. With that, let's get things rolling here. Oh, the Pigback Riders also. Yeah, can't forget these guys. They're like aggressive spear infantry. They've got really good charge bonus, which is hilarious. I guess they're like kind of knights, right? Shock cavalry in a way. Makes sense. They're also like Empire Spears, kind of, in terms of their stats. Yeah, they're Empire Spears with like 30 charge, which is super weird. And their stats actually partially come from like a martial prowess type ability. We'll look more at that in a minute. Let's get in here and watch as the Khornegors and the Korok's Man Rippers, sort of like a, almost like a Regiment of Renown Khorngor now, but, undivided. We're going to watch them get in here. Khornegors themselves, where are they at? They're flanking around. Yep, making an attack here. Alongside... Oh yeah, finally, Taurox got some proper Khornegors go alongside him. Still doesn't have access to the Minotaurs of Khorne, unfortunately. CA, please, hopefully. I'm sure there's some reason why they haven't done it up to this point, but can we just make it happen? Like, how hard is it, really? Anyway, yeah, the Halberd Rush is going to be quite scary for HDS's Ogres, obviously. He does manage to get in the back line here with these Blood Vultures, at least initially, but then some Khornegors switch back and easily dispatch them as I kind of run the Ungor Raiders up and forward, try and take some shots at these Man-Eaters. Thunder Tusk rampaging through my lines, though. Definitely going to be causing some problems, some serious disruption, slowing those units down so they can't get away. And the Pigback Riders, their charge bonus, you can see them just pushing through as well. Pursuing very well. They have a decent speed. Definitely, despite the poison. Yeah, 35 speed. The speed and the charge actually does give them a little bit of an advantage over Empire Spearmen. They're also more expensive than Empire Spearmen, it should be said, but Brave Shaman's going to get in here. I love their little lances, too. Man, honestly, like, probably my favorite unit in the DLC, low-key. Will they be enough, though? Amble Peak, Greybacks, they're going to get in here and also kind of keep things locked in, relatively speaking. I think HTS is kind of locking me in jail here while he tries to shoot me with the Thunder Tusk, which is definitely a valid way to do things. But, oh, those are the Piggyback Knights specifically. Okay, Regiment Renown has even more charge bonus. 56 charge is crazy for an infantry unit. These guys like countercharging large units, potentially hilarious. Unfortunately, they did get kind of wrecked here. That's okay. They are still, you know, relatively kind of low mid-tier Regiment of Renown. But yeah, you can see the back line here where the Khornegors, the Ungors, all goring these Noblars here, doing a great job against the Ogres. Bloodbrute Behemoth going to get closed by the Yetis. And currently well surrounded, not doing great. Taking out some unit models at least. We see a Yeti fall there. And the Pickback Riders helping to defend, keep the Ungors from being able to support properly. Thunder Tusk also, despite the fact that it's running around, is doing some nice damage. We do also see here, check this out, Exhausted, minus 25 armor. So this is something I talked about in the last video I recorded. I don't know about posting, but I'm just going to be enthusing about this the entire time. As this massive, yeah, Trader King goes off, going to do some really nice blob damage. Looks like the Bloodbrute might fall even still. But yeah, very important to note here, Exhausted. Look at all the different modifiers. Armor, leadership, speed, melee attack, melee defense, charge bonus. All of these things are affected by exhaustion. Amazing. Just absolutely amazing. I think even myself sometimes didn't appreciate in some battles how just nasty impactful exhaustion is. It really just degrades all the stats of your units, and it also shows how important vigor refresh effects are. Like if we look at Goldbag here, he's still operating at full armor, right? He's still got 80 armor, even though he's a little tired, but he's not necessarily exhausted like everyone else. You can see it's affecting him a little bit in certain circumstances. I like this fact that it's even still in a sort of yellow-orange color there. That's really nice. But anyway, I'm going to continue to probably point that out in every single replay, so if you get sick of me talking about it, I apologize. I'm just so happy that it's in the game now, honestly. I've wanted that for years. But Torox here, absolutely smashing the Heavens Butcher. He's seeing some stars, absolutely. As Torox just absolutely bullies him here. Anyway. Yeah, Khornegors continuing to go. They're going to get a little Dismember on them, which actually deals some damage now. I'll have to look. Did they rework the Ogre army abilities? I might not have even looked at that. But anyway, yeah, Dismember, have a little damage component. Even still, the Ungors, you get a pretty fast charge speed. They are Beastmen after all, which again, the speed in particular will be really nice, considering Khorne Halberds are so slow. They're really tough to use in some matchups, like especially, again, Domination, certain maps and game modes. Even in land battles, too, just having the Vanguard option and the extra speed is quite nice, even though Chaos Warrior Halberd's obviously much tankier. But we're going to get a nice duel here between these two Giga Chad monstrous infantry lords. One late Warhammer 2, one current Warhammer 3. You can see the difference a little bit in sort of texture quality and improvements over time and various things, but definitely both very cool. The Thunder Tusk in the background, man, how can you not love this? Are you not entertained? How could you not be? And again, that was very rude of me to do. HDS picked the Ogres, and I was like, you know what? Let's try something. I'll take the Beastmen. And yes, this is something that's going to probably be decent against the Ogres, obviously. I would also definitely take something like this against Bretonnia. Maybe not with the Bloodbrute. Probably take some other stuff. Maybe some cavalry instead. Take some, yeah, Centaurs, maybe. The tricky thing, though, is although even with the nerf, Centaurs of Tzeentch are still pretty strong. Now the fact that you have marks means that you do actually have to choose. I think it was always that way in the tournament rule sets. But even in quick battles now, you definitely have to choose with Beastmen what you want to take. Khornegors are a really good option, though. One unit here, 1835, 1200 damage dealt, 1835 on value, of course, 1000 damage value on this one, 1100 damage dealt there. This one, even still, 900 damage value, 6461. Just really nicely done all the way across the board. Korok's Man Rippers basically are like a fourth one, right? For more expensive, but they're also a little bit better stats all the way around, but the fact that you can just take so many halberds now is just nice. It's really nice as the Beastmen. Yeah. So, Brave Shaman Lower Wild, also great with that Traderkin there. But yeah, the Pigback Riders, very solid value on the one at least. I do think these are a unit that could potentially be very good. They are a little bit expensive. We'll check their cost here in just a minute. Yeah, the one Man-Eaters, they had some armored infantry to go after, and even though they had a lot of anti-large to fight, they managed to still pay for themselves, which is fairly impressive, I do have to say. I have to look at them maybe in some other matchups, but they are expensive enough that even still, like, you're going to have to kind of build around them to a degree, and HDS did. Of course, he's trying to take as much of the new stuff as possible, so like the Yetis, they definitely had a tougher time here. I think there's other matchups maybe where their like trades could come in handy, but they are, again, pretty expensive for what you do actually get out of them. The Thunder Tusk also I could definitely see being very good in certain matchups, especially with healing. But of course, HDS showing off the new Lore of Magic didn't take that. I do think had he brought healing, this build actually could have potentially given me some problems. I don't know, had he been able to kind of heal through some of the halberds a little bit, but unfortunately the Lore of Heaven's damage output just wasn't what he needed it to be against some of my infantry. Let's finish up with some cost and stat analysis, starting with the beautiful Khornegors. Yeah, I mean, like I mentioned, they're a nice alternative for the Khorne warrior halberds. They're significantly faster, plus 10 speed is pretty huge, and they also have more HP, even though all around, pretty much all their other stats are worse. As to be expected, they're also 200 points cheaper, which means they're easier to mass, and of course they get that Vanguard deployment. They also get this Buy Our Blood, which I don't know if I even really talked about too much. I don't know if it came up too much in that game. Might have a little bit, but essentially they have like Buy Our Blood from Kislev, and they also have both Primal Fury and Frenzy, which means these base stats, while they don't look that impressive, actually do get juiced up by plus 15 as long as their leadership is high. So definitely a nice addition again for Khorne. Will be useful certainly in typical game modes like Domination, but for the Beastmen, they are the most expensive of any of the marked Gors, and you see now that units with a Mark of Chaos, so that applies to Zangors, Pestigors, Khornegors, obviously. You've also got Centigors of Tzeentch and the Blood Brute Behemoth. I don't remember, I'd have to look through. I don't think anything else, like again, they don't have the Minotaurs of Khorne, unfortunately, although hopefully those are added at some point in the future. Yeah, that's pretty much it for the marked units. So, apologies guys, my voice actually is starting to go out a little bit, but that's okay. Anyway, yeah, for the Khornegors for the Beastmen, I think, will be really nice for a mid-tier anti-large option. It's not really something you had access to, so add something new. Now, to finish up with the Ogres, Goldbag himself, he's, you know, pretty comparable, actually, to somebody like Torox. Torox is more expensive base cost, keep that in mind. He is pretty substantially more expensive. Goldbag still got more HP, less armor, but a little bit better all-around combat stats, a little bit slower, and slightly better leadership as well. He also does pick up Vanguard deployment, of course, and Ogre Charge, which means he can charge Brace Defenders and still retain some of that. Also has a self-heal, which, you know, arguably better than Brass Body, which is one of the stronger defensive self-abilities in the game, that rather than heal, you just don't take the damage in the first place, right? Yeah, I'd be curious to see kind of the mitigation of this versus the healing you get, but probably pretty comparable, honestly, I would say. Mostly the fact that Goldbag's cheaper does give him, in my opinion, a nice advantage over Torox, although Torox is obviously very good. The cheaper cost definitely does come in handy. Yeah, and then for the rest, the Pigback Riders, like I said, they're pretty close to Empire Spearmen, actually. If we take a look here, 350 points for Empire Spearmen, 375 for the Pigback Riders. You can see they're also shielded, a little bit less armor, a little bit less HP, less unit models though, so take that with a grain of salt. They do have less, actually better attack on paper, much less melee defense, but they essentially have martial prowess, or what the old version of martial prowess actually was. It gives leadership and melee defense instead of melee attack and melee defense, but essentially the same. While they have more than 50% HP, they get an extra bit of melee defense and leadership, and that +8 is not quite enough to even them out with Empire Spearman's melee defense, but again, they get extra charge bonus. Anti-large is 12. Let's see, Spearman with shields is 15, so a little bit less than anti-large, but very comparable unit. And then, of course, we saw the Knights there, the Piggyback Knights. Literally 56 charge bonus, and Strider, which is, yeah, not on the regular unit. Plus, they pick up this Piggyback Joust. So when a unit is charging, they actually get better. This unit gets better charge speed and a pretty nice contact effect. Minus 30% speed, minus 4 melee defense, minus 6 melee attack. Okay, so it's not active all the time, only on the charge. Not amazing, but still, this is pretty nice, actually, to have a little debuff contact effect. So that, again, if this unit, like, charges an enemy cavalry unit, they can actually slow them down and potentially, you know, keep up with them with that charge speed bonus, right? So really, really interesting ability set, and really cool regiment renown, honestly. I really like them. We've got, yeah, the Golbags Man-Eaters. Vanguard deployment, adaptive tactics, talked about all that. They are pretty pricey. They do have better armor as well. That is something to mention over the regular Man-Eaters, right? Like, even the Iron Fists, which have a little bit of extra, still only 50 versus the 80 of Goldbag's Man-Eater. So you definitely are paying more for them, but you do get some extra. Even the 1000 HP, is that enough to justify the extra cost? Hard to say. I mean, especially over base Man-Eaters. They're not that much better overall, especially the melee defense. And it's, yeah, I mean, I think they'll be good in certain matchups, definitely. But these guys right here, the 450 for the Blood Vultures. So if I go ahead and pull Cathayan, Roman. So do keep in mind there's a few key differences here. One of them is that Crowmen have more unit models, which means they can output more damage, right? They have 12 more unit models. Blood Vultures do have more HP, which means they have more HP per model, but they're also just a regular leadership unit. They're not like Onyx Crowmen, who are basically undead, right? They're elemental, so they have crumbling and are technically unbreakable in that sense, but then just take damage otherwise, whereas Blood Vultures, leadership, they'll just run away. And their leadership isn't amazing, so they definitely will just run away, but very comparable otherwise in terms of stats. I mean, Blood Vulture's a little bit faster, but otherwise basically interchangeable. They do get a little bit of a buff as well, with each nearby entity death. So, you know, there's potentially a build where you, like, fly these guys over a line that's getting shelled, say, by, like, an Iron Blaster or something, and then they just pick up stats without having to do anything and then dive into combat, maybe. A little bit janky, but in general, very useful, cheap flying unit. Super, super useful in terms of unit type, especially given how the stats have landed. I think these guys will be very good, if not competitive, in most builds. Like, I think you'll want a few of these guys, similar to how you use Furies. Move in, shut down some ranged units or some enemies. HDS tried to do it. I did run in actually realizing now they count as small entities, so the Khornegors weren't getting any bonus against them. But hey, there you go. Even their stats were enough to just beat them down. Yetis is an interesting one. They do cost basically the same as regular Man-Eaters, and they're pretty similar, honestly, like, very, very similar. Regular Man-Eaters are slightly better all the way around, but then the Yetis have that Frostbite and the slowing aura as well, which basically gives them +8 melee attack, essentially, right? So, yeah, definitely pretty good stuff. The Amble Peak Greybacks, of course, do pick up that extra passive here for the extra weapon strength and damage resistance if an enemy terror-causing unit is nearby. It means they'll be pretty good at hunting enemy monsters, but 1600, quite expensive for low armor, relatively low HP. And then, of course, the Thunder Tusk, yeah, 10,000 plus HP. If we compare it to the Harpoon Launcher, shooting attacks is a little bit different, but it does apply Frostbite and has magic damage. Same thing in melee, which will make it situationally better against well, just overall better. It has 1,000 more HP. It's just going to be straight up better than the Stonehorn in many situations. But it is a bigger target. Will probably take more missile damage in relevant matchups. And 150 points more expensive. So, yeah, definitely in a more melee-centric matchup, I could see taking this over the Stonehorn. Not that you really see the Harpoon Launcher a lot. Like, it's probably a lot more realistic to actually compare it to, like, the Hunter on a Stonehorn. Because this is the one you actually take. 2,100. Again, pretty close in terms of cost. This one obviously has anti-large shooting attacks, not artillery range, but it's 120, which is pretty good. Yeah, hard to say, actually. The Hunter does go over 10,000 HP as well, with the hero kind of adding a little bit there. Yeah, interesting. I think these are more or less interchangeable. Like, if you're worried more about missiles, then you probably want to take the Hunter, or if you're trying to use that anti-large bonus against something specific, or otherwise take the Thunder Tusk if you want to try and take advantage of the Frostbite, try and slow something down. I guess would be the difference. But overall, very fun stuff. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification. Every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again. We'll see you next time.